Hello, everyone, and welcome to our World Book Day webinar. Pleased to see you all. And can I just check that everyone can hear me? I've got the chat box up and open, and I'm going to keep that open throughout the session so that we can take your questions, and it's a bit of an interactive session so that we can respond to you. So lovely, lovely to see you all. So let's see who's talking. So I'm Ingrid, and I'm the author and the founder of Monster Phonics. And I'd like to introduce Lauren, who's our very creative illustrator. Hi, Lauren.
Hello. Happy World Book Day, everybody.
And we were going to introduce you and tell you a little bit about ourselves as well. So in that picture on the left, that's me with my three big girls. So I was a teacher for many years. I love teaching children and a mum as well. And Lauren, what are you holding there in your hands?
Well, this is something very, very special. So this is a book that I have written and illustrated, and I'm very excited to say that it's being published this year. So that's very exciting. And I'm also a junior graphic designer for Monster Phonics.
Great. So we've got a question. Can you whisper to the person next to you, if possible, but who is your favourite monster? We're really interested to know. Now, my favourite monster is actually Miss Ono, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And Lauren?
My favorite monster is Angry Red A.
Wow. So let's get in. So this is a picture of me when I was a little girl. I was just in the year before I started school. And when I was a little girl, I loved stories. I loved books and stories more than anything. I loved libraries, and I also loved teaching. So even though I was a child, when I was in class, I was always thinking about how do we learn, what worked and what didn't. And I was also in a family which and a community that spoke a different language. They spoke German. And they talked about English all the time. They'd say, English is tricky and it's really, really difficult. And I used to think there is an easy solution. So at 9 years old, I said, let's use colour. Why don't we use colour? Children love colour, and surely that can help us, because I used colour in maths and adding and taking away, and that helped me a lot. So even the idea of red is making the A sound, that was a long time ago. And for me, that's a really important message that, always think like a child. And this is a large part of this webinar. Children are curious and they have the most amazing ideas. And we're going to come back to that later, because I'm hoping that we can use your ideas in our books. So how did the monsters develop and grow? So you can see here on the left-hand side, you can see the monster development. So look at Yellow Eye at the beginning. Yellow Eye changed quite a bit. He looks much better, I think, at the end. And Green Froggy also changed a lot. Look, she starts off with 2 eyes and she ends up with 3. And you can see how Angry Red A changed. So that we developed and their appearance changed. And it was, but the characters didn't. The characters were set really early on. So although our books are about monsters and phonics, there is so much more to them, because every story moment is an opportunity to share something special. So even though the phonics books, that's really important to the monsters and monster phonics. So they will have messages about kindness, probably the most important message, and friendship, problem solving, working together and being cooperative, having a really positive attitude when things might go wrong, And we like them to be funny. So quite often you'll see funny things hidden within those books. And also about being inclusive and having lots of different types of characters and lots of different ways of that people work and the way that they learn. So I said that my favorite monster was Miss Ono, and that's because Miss Ono bumps into things, and I bump into lots of things. I have something called dyspraxia, where it means that I just don't always see where I am in my space. So I bump into things a lot. And when I was a little girl, there was no one like me in storybooks. And I wanted children to be able to see that there are people like me. And there's loads of messages about kindness and wrote loads of messages about how much value I can add. So that was important. And there are some other characters in there as well, and other ways of working that you might be able to identify and think that's a bit like me. So really important for all children to think about is how all big ideas grow from just a small spark. And you need to have all that belief in yourself, all the things that your teachers tell you. You need to have that resilience and determination, because through that, you can create amazing things. And it just comes from all of that. And so if we always still think like children, which is what we do in Monster Phonics, that's why we'll always ask you about, what you like, what you want. We should think like children because you have the best ideas. And we really want to make sure that reading is fun, and that's what World Book Day is all about. So we've got new stories coming, and now we had a lovely question before, actually by email from Hutter Primary School about monsters, and did you have monsters that you developed but they didn't make it to the stories? Well, we didn't have extra monsters, but we have some sort of side characters, and you'll see some new sort of side characters in our next stories coming too. But you'll also see some children. So there'll be a few different sets of children that the monsters will be having new adventures with, and I think that's going to be really, really exciting. So we're going to now look at how we actually create the story. So they're stories, but they're also phonics books. And when you write phonics books, you have to, of course, include all the words that children are learning that week in phonics. So that slightly changes the story that you're going to write. So I'm going to show you what I do. So here's my list of words that have the letters AR making the R sound. So I write all of the words down, the most common words that you are likely to use. And so here we've got farm, barn, cart, bark, car, park, dark, far, and farmyard. Then I would think a lot about the sentences that I could create using those words. And then I would look at all the sentences and think, how can we weave those together, piece them together to make a story? So we're going to try to do that now, and I hope that the technology helps me here. So I wonder if you can suggest some stories for us to write. So some sentences for us to write. So remember, we've got the word farm, barn, cart, bark, car, park, dark, far, and farmyard. Let's have a look if I can write these in the box. Okay. So any teachers able to write into the text box for me? I drive. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to try and type as fast as you. I have a farm, and in the farm is a cart in the barn. Oh, where's my full stop? Okay, And okay, I went to a farmyard. I went to a fantastic farm. I live on a farmyard. A dog on the farm barks. I'm just going to write one more. A dog on the farm barked. Okay. Okay. It was dark in the farmyard. A car went into the barn. In the dark, there were some children, and they ran into the farmyard. It is so dark on the farm. I found a farm in the middle. Wow, there's so many. The car was big. The dog barked. There's so many sentences that you're coming up with, and I've got a misspelling on here. But you can start to see that these are building up a picture of a story about a farm, I think. And you know what? That's exactly the idea that I had as well, looking at these words. So here's the beginning of the Monster Phonics story. Ah, before the story, there was a question about do we always write neatly? Well, when you're thinking of ideas and you're drafting your story, that's really difficult. And one of the things about dyspraxia as well is that I don't think I ever write very neatly, although I do try when I'm writing a letter to someone. But here are my notes for this story. So I was doing exactly what you were doing there, scribbling out sentences and looking at how we can pull them together. So this is the beginning of the story. Oops. This is Tricky Witch talking. We will get a farm. We will sell food in the farm shop and we will be rich. Tricky Witch watched a television program called On the Farm. It made farming look very easy. Anyone can do it, thought Tricky Witch. Pop, pop! Her alarm went off. It is dark, she said. She put on her farm boots and set off. Up at the crack of dawn, Tricky Witch got dressed. She had to get up early to do all the jobs on the farm. She got the eggs. She put them in the cart. Then she fed the hens. Trying to save time, Tricky Witch attached the farm cart to her lovely golden car. Feeling very pleased with herself, she drove her car to the hen house. Then she went to pull up the carrots. I will put them in the cart, she said. She drove her car to the field in which the carrots grew. It was very muddy and her wheels skidded a little, but Tricky Witch got there in the end. That is a hard part. Soon I will be rich. I will park the car and put the food in the yard. Puffing and puffing, Tricky Witch was exhausted. It was only 7 o'clock in the morning. The car set off the dog. The bark set off the ducks. They ran far. She ran to get them. The muddy car made a rumbling noise. It was all the mud that was stuck in the wheels. That was when the trouble started. So that's the beginning of that book, or a lot of the way through. And you can see things aren't turning out quite how Tricky Witch imagined. And here is a document in which we would start to work. And what's missing? There's definitely something missing here. How can we add more engagement and how can we make it fun for all the children to see? I think it might be the pictures. So now I'm going to say hello to Lauren, who's going to look at how she tells stories through her art.
Thank you, Ingrid. Please, can we have the next slide? That's fab. So hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here chatting to you about how I make the books at Monster Phonics and what goes on behind the scenes. So let me tell you a little bit how I make the illustrations and graphics for the Monster Phonics books. Here you can see in the right-hand image, I use lots of technology which helps me to make the books, like my computer and my graphics tablet as well. These use design software to help me create the books. Please, can we have the next slide? Thank you. This is an image of my tablet that I mentioned about. Here I use software and my Apple Pencil, just like a digital pencil, to help me make sketches and drawings. I'll show you some examples of those later on. Please can we have the next slide. So next I'd like to give you an insight into the process I have for designing and making the books. So step one, Ingrid makes the books and very cleverly thinks up of all the words. I then read the books, I make some quick sketches, and then I set up my document, which is really important, decide on the background, add in all the characters, and then I do my favorite bit, which is adding in all the small details. Please can we have the next slide? So getting started. This is one of the most important parts of my job, and it happens right at the start. Here you can see an image of how I set up my design on the left-hand side. Here we actually use a bit of maths and measuring to ensure that the design is the right size. Then we adjust the measurements, which helps to tell the printers where to cut all of our books with their big machines. I don't know if you can see on the right-hand side there, just above Tricky Witch, there's a picture of one of the industrial printers. So they're a little bit bigger than the printers that you might have at home. We also make sure that all the colours were printed out nicely too. Please can we have the next slide? So once I've set up my document, I then move on to creating the background. Here we can see Tricky Witch's living room. In the story, she's been watching her favourite TV programme, so I think we should add the TV in next. Please can we have the next slide? So the next thing we do is to put all the characters onto the pages. Here we can see Tricky Witch in her living room and the TV's now on the wall. She's thinking about getting a farm. So we've put a thought bubble above her head. Next slide, please. So the next step is that small details part, which is one of my favorite parts of making the books. This really helps to bring the book to life. So I would like you to tell me if you can see any small details that I have added. Can you spot a smaller detail? I'll give you guys a second to have a look at the picture and think, what has changed? What has been added? Please can we have the next slide? We've got some people in the chat. Yes, well done. If you said that the television is on, then you were right. So Tricky Witch is watching an episode of On the Farm. So I needed to make the program for her to watch. So you can see me making the program there. Please can we have the next slide? So these images show off the new Stage 11 books that we are working on and how I create these. It's a little bit different from creating the Monster Phonics books. Here you can see I start off with a rough sketch, doing this on my tablet. And then in step 2, I refine the details. And in the third step, I add colour. Please can we have the next slide? So here you can see the small details again, like adding in the name of the book, for example, and the book badge. We also have the blurb that we're then adding in, so all the text and everything. So this is now a finished product, or very, very nearly finished product. Please can we have the last slide? And lastly, here is an example of one of the illustrated pages within that book. This was created using a pencil tool and what is called a gouache brush. So that creates that nice grey kind of watercolory texture. We did this in black and white. And that's it from me. So I hope you've enjoyed learning all about how I illustrate and design the books at Monster Phonics.
Oh, Lauren, I just love how you tell stories through your illustrations. It's so magical. And now, what we're going to ask is if you guys can help us, because as we've been saying, children have the most amazing ideas. So, this is a story ideas competition. Now, you might want to tell your story in words, or you might want to tell your story in pictures. Both are amazing, and we can't wait to see them. And we will select some of these ideas and we'll pop them into our stories. And when we do that, we're going to, if you would like us to, put your photo, publish your photo in the book, and we will say thank you to you. And so you will have forevermore your photo in that book, in the Monster Phonics book. And we'll also send you a monster, your favorite monster, to say thank you as well. And now we've had some questions by email. We've tried to answer them, but would you like to ask some questions now to myself and to Lauren? We've been checking this chat box. Let's have a look. See if we can get. Trying to scroll to the bottom. There's so many messages coming through. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can't keep up with them. Oh wow. Okay, let me just try and get to the end message. Let's see. Oh wow. Why did you decide to use monsters? Well, it was because working in schools and working with children, we could see how much you guys loved monsters and superheroes. And in phonics, I really wanted to make it to bring it to life with characters and make it really real. And so looking at what children were reading at that point, that really made the monsters stand out to me. And then the monsters could make sounds, which would help you all to remember. Are there going to be any new monsters? Yes, a couple of them, but they're not going to be the key monsters because we need those to be the same, but we'll have lots of sort of monster side characters coming up for. How long have you been making them for? Oh, wow. Okay, a really long time. So the monsters have kind of been in my head and been my friends almost for over 10 years. So it was just over 10 years ago that I started to develop them, and they've been creating stories ever since. How long does it take, Lauren, to draw the pictures for one book?
That depends on how much I have going on in a day, but normally it's about a day. So there's 8 pages of illustrations. So we do then that, and then it's my job as the graphic designer to make sure that everything's as it should be. So adding barcodes and making sure everything's in the right place. So yeah, I'd say about a day.
And how do you make them the pages, both pages the same size?
So that happens in the beginning when we make the book. So we make sure that all the artboards, which turn into the pages once they're printed, are all the right size in the measurements. And then we make sure that when we're doing something on one page, we make it identical on one of the other pages.
Oh, wow. And really good question here, Lauren. Can you make chapter books for Monster Phonics?
That is a very good question. So we are making chapter books at Monster Phonics. So our stage 11 books are chapter books. So when for children who are a little bit more advanced in their reading and their writing, these books are for them. So they have chapter books, yes.
And I've got a question here about the monsters. Who was the first monster you ever made? Well, okay, so thinking a lot about needing these characters and the sounds that they make. Angry Red A was the first one that I made. And I was actually on a really, really, really long plane journey. and I started to sketch in my notepad. And that's one thing I meant to say. Notepads are great because they can just, you know, you can add all your ideas to them and come back at wherever you are. So I had 3 monsters straight away that I just kind of had in my head, and I started to draw out. And what was the latest monster I made? Well, actually, we had a new one uh, just a couple of weeks ago, called Ding Dong, who's going to come into one of the stories, and she looks great, and she has a bell shop in Monster Phonics Land, and there's a story all about that. Let's have a look. Do you write fact books? Yes, we have non-fiction books, and we have new non-fiction books, don't we, Lauren, coming as well
We
for
do.
older learners.
Absolutely. We're very excited about those.
And lots of fun with those. How many books have you made? Well, we have in Monster Phonics about 250 books, and we have in the background another 150 books. So it'd be about 400 books. And it's not just myself in terms of we've had people who've come in to help write, say, like the non-fiction books. So we have an amazing team of people who work on the books in different parts, and we're all people who just love stories and love teaching and love books. So we really enjoy what we do. Do we use machines to make books, Lauren, or does someone help you?
This is a really good question that I saw. So yes, we use machines in terms of technology. So as I went through earlier, you saw those pictures of my computer and things. So we do use quite a lot of technology to help us make the books. And then we use external sources like the printers that actually help us to physically make the books. So they go from being just something on screen to actually a physical product that you can then hold. So yes, we have machines that help us do that.
And do you colour in the lines yourself, or do you have anything to help you with that?
So there's lots of different tools within the software that we use that make our jobs a little bit easier. So for some of the books, like the stage 11 books, I do colour those in by hand. It's a little bit different. But for making the monsters, there's things like fill-in tools that help you create a shape, and then you can drop a colour in and it will fill the whole shape up with colour. So makes it a bit quicker.
That's fabulous. What was the first Monster Phonics book you made? Well, it was a story about black little black cats that go off on an adventure, and they go they accidentally drink some drinking potion, and they shrink and they go off, and it's almost like they are on boats in the sea, and but it's actually the sink. That's the first story that I created. Okay. How do you create your voiceovers? Well, okay, so we've got voiceovers coming on all the Monster Phonics books on the ebook site, and we're just finishing stage 1 now. And we have someone who's really, really lovely and really great at creating stories and sound effects. And she's called Robin, and she comes in to help us with those. And we then add each sort of sound file to the books. And I love that because it just gives children a chance to have like a sort of additional dimension at home. So all of your answers here, we are going to download those, and we'll send out some answers in an email to your schools, because I want to make sure that we answer every single one. So, first of all, thank you. And please write to us. We want to see your stories and send your drawings to us. If your teachers can take photos, and just send them to our info@monsterphonics.com email. We can't wait to see them. And so Bye, and have a wonderful World Book Day. And oh, don't forget to share your photos. We love to see them. They make the Monster Phonics team so immensely happy. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.